expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County, I want to thank you all for joining me for this dreary day out here. But that's, I'm sitting in my bedroom and it's getting so dark outside, I had to flip on the light. The window just isn't even providing enough light for me. But joining me right now is Matt Holman. Matt Holman from 3H Tree Service. How you doing, Matt?
Good, Rob. How are you?
Not too bad. Tell everyone where you're at. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. So you're out there. You're at a business, some business in Coos County. You're not at a residence today, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and read the rules so everyone's clear on the rules. We're going to start the next round. When the round starts, the first person to find Matt Holman of 3H Tree Service will win the grand prize. The play-in area covers all of Coos County. There will only be one. There will only be one winner per round, and the round ends when we have a winner or when announced on the Rob Taylor Report podcast. People who are ineligible to win the prize include family and employees of 3H Tree Service. We just have to do that to be fair. These are great folks from 3H Tree Service, but we have to be fair. And then anyone involved with hiring or contracting with 3H Tree Service is also ineligible. And anyone who is a known criminal in Coos County or Oregon, because I don't think Matt here wants to give any money to criminals, do you?
No.
So if Goldfaden or one of those douchebags that show up, you're not. They don't win, right?
Yeah, no, we're not funding your fentanyl habit.
We're not funding your fentanyl habit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let Matt get out of here, but I want you all to know that before I go, though, Matt, tell everyone about 3H Tree Service.
Well, we're locally owned and operated. It's a family-run business. Let's see. I am personally an ISA certified arborist. I had to go to school for that. So I'm pretty up to date on all the tree care techniques and understand soil water relations and biology of a tree and that kind of stuff. So we're pretty educated on that part of it. We are the only licensed arborist through the Oregon State Landscape Board in Coos County. That kind of sets us apart a little bit. Some big news, we'll go to a deal tomorrow, and then I'll be able to announce on Wednesday some stuff that happened that's going to help set us apart. Again, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or I'd tell you right now.
Okay.
But we're kicking butt and taking names in this industry, and I appreciate Coos County and all their support for us and what they're doing. If you got trees that are giving you trouble, if you need a consultation, if your tree's just acting weird and you don't understand what's going on with it, give us a call. We look at that for you. If you've got some trees that are really in the wrong place, we run into that a lot. Wrong tree, wrong place. If it needs taken out, give us a call, 541-294-1800. We'd love to talk to you and figure out what works for you and get your trees taken care of.
One of the things that I noticed is you make a lot of videos and you post them on your Facebook page. I mean, some of those are just incredible. You're like 90 feet in the air with a chainsaw on your hand, just taking those things down. Let me ask you, have you ever actually hit anything with taking those trees down? Is there anything, you ever demolished, you ever killed anybody, that maybe you might not want to say, but
Yeah, I don't know if I want to give all our dirty secrets away. We did hit that Suburban. Man, I got a lot of grief about that. We, in that last reel I put out, we smashed a Suburban and people were all up in arms about that, but that was all okay. Like, it just made a cool video. So we're not out there to destroy people's property or anything like that. We really try to take precautions and do what we can to do things safely and protect your property. I'm not saying we never had mistakes, but we do everything we can not to. And then if the mistake does happen, then we do everything we can to make it right. You know, it's a tough business, and generally there's a lot of stuff that we're working around. So no, we haven't had any insurance claims or anything like that.
Nice. And in fact, I remember there was one video, you had this tree that, I mean, it was like completely butted up against this house, and you had to remove it. And I don't know how you were able to move it without taking off part of that awning. Do you remember that one I'm talking about? I don't know if
you know, I was looking through my Facebook last night, skimming through all this stuff, and it was like, man, I don't remember half these jobs. And I thought for sure I'd remember every one of them, but we've done a lot of work in the last couple of years.
Well, that's a good thing. And by the way, anyone who wants to hire 3H Tree Service, I highly recommend Matt here and his guys. They're like I said, they're professionals. They remove those trees with surgical precision. I mean, you guys go in there, and I'm just impressed by it. I love the videos. I don't know, if I was 20 again, I would dig it. I love to get up on heights, and I love to get up on those trees like that. You know, I'm fat and old now, so it's not as easy. But in my 20s, I think I would have loved something like that. It just looks really cool. I mean, how hard is that on your body?
It wasn't so bad in my 20s. I just turned 44 on Christmas, so it's getting a little tougher. We bucket truck everything we can now instead of climbing, just because, you know, I don't know. I'm not quite a kid anymore, you know, but we're still more than willing to climb. We're pretty prevalent, or we're pretty good at practical rigging and things like that, you know, to make sure that things come out safely. We have access to a crane. Our crane guy is awesome, and he takes care of us. So, I mean, if we can't get it out any other way, we'll pull a crane in there and take it out in pieces that way.
Well, this sounds like it would definitely work. I think that, like you said, you're not a spring chicken anymore. You got to take care of yourself, and you got to take care of keep being able to keep taking those trees down, because that's what you do. So I imagine I knew this Japanese gentleman from Bandon here, and this guy is like in his 70s, and he's still pulling himself up the trees, you know, with the rope. And I'm just so impressed by this guy. I'm sitting there watching him, and I felt completely useless. You know, this is about 5 or 6 years ago that this guy was able to do that. And, you know, I guess if you keep in shape, you can keep that stuff up. So I'm going to go ahead and give out a hint and let everyone know, because today's grand prize is $300, and that's being provided by 3H Tree Service. And if you can find Matt, he's out of business. And let's see, does that business have any signs on it that says 3H Tree Service?
It sure does. It sure does. I don't know if this is too much of a hint, but I bet a quick Google search would get you there.
Nice. Well, I'm telling you what, I'm going to pop you out of here, and I'm trying to get Amy in. She's having a little bit of difficulty, so we're going to try to get her in here. We're going to be talking about the Englewood Diking District. What do you know about the Englewood Diking District? You do dikes?
Well, no, I don't do dikes. But,
that's with an I, not a Y.
Oh, copy.
Okay.
God, I'm glad you're not on the radio anymore, Rob. We'd have been kicked off for that.
Yes, we would.
I know Amy, and I know she's about good stuff, and I think she's probably got some pretty good information, and so yeah, she's got good stuff to say.
Good deal. All right, I'm gonna get you on out of here. We'll pop you back in a little bit, or if you get a winner, text me or come back in, and we'll because I'm just going to remove you from the screen. Boy, this technology is tough on me, so I'm just going to remove you from the screen. But if someone finds you, just let me know, and we'll pop you right back on here.
Okay, I think she's in Louisiana right now. Actually, she might be having a hard time getting logged in.
Well, I heard they got electricity recently in Louisiana. I mean, you talk funny. I go to see I have cousins in Louisiana and I have cousins in Texas, and I go to visit my cousins in Texas, and they always they say the same thing. Wow, those people in Louisiana, they speak funny. And I'm like, yeah, you're a good one to talk. Yeah. So when Texans are calling you a funny speaker, you got a problem. All right. Well, I'll be back in a second, man. All right. We're trying to get Amy in, and for some reason, I'm not getting her on the line. And what we may have to do is we may have to, I'll have to see if I can get her number. Maybe that's what I'll do. And we'll get her on here. When it was so much easier back in the old days, I'd have a producer. The producer would pop right on here, and he would take care of all this business. But that's just not how it works anymore. And so let's see if I can find her number. Oh, boy. This is exciting. What can I say? It's good to have, we're going to call her. Let's see if we can call her. Let's see if we got her on here. She might be using her phone. Hi. Hey, Amy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm looking at you at the show.
Well, that's weird because I can't get you to pop in for some reason. Let me.
I'm looking at I don't know, it has you on it and it has me there and it says you're in the show.
Okay, well, unmute your mic. Is your mic muted?
I had it muted. Can you hear me?
Yep. Now, let me turn off the phone and we'll get you right here. Let me see if I can hear you here. Let me silence you. Can you hear me? I can
hear you.
All right. I don't know why that's not coming through. Oh, I'm getting a reverb from the telephone. Okay. Let me turn this off. All right. Go ahead and speak, Amy. Let's see if I can hear you. I don't know why she's not coming on. This is weird. Let me call her again. Let's see.
I am currently away with a.
Well, we got our message machine. That's all right. We may have to figure some other way of doing this. We may just have to have her on the phone.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why don't we just... Oh, wow. Can you turn that off? You there?
Tag, you're it.
Okay, go ahead and sign out. Sign out of... Oh, wait, hold on. I got you. Can you hear me now? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. Oh, I keep losing her. Wow. She is in Louisiana, folks. Louisiana is a whole other world. There she is again. Can you hear me, Amy? Can you hear me? Because I got you on the screen. I just can't. Wow, this is going to be really interesting. So let me give her a call, because we can do this over the phone. So don't worry, because I think this is a very important issue, and I think you guys deserve to hear about it.
Are you there?
I'm here. Let's do this over the phone.
Okay, I got off of the app because it's not working.
All right, that's okay. I got you on speakerphone, and I can hear you just fine.
Good. I heard you talking to Matt, and I was looking at it, and it just wasn't working.
No, that's weird how sometimes that won't do that. I don't know if that's because maybe I don't have enough bandwidth here, or if the fact is it was something from your part. I really don't know. Were you using the phone?
No, I was using the iPad, but we are in the middle of a thunderstorm right now.
Yeah, it's Louisiana. That sounds about right. I got relatives in Shreveport, so I know all about the weather in Louisiana.
That's what's going on.
That's what's going on. So tell us, how do you become a superintendent of a diking district?
Well, basically, I'm the youngest one in the district that has the ability or the knowledge to deal with it. So, and I have a bunch of the older people that were superintendents standing behind me and are able to teach me. So it was kind of a tag you're it.
So it wasn't like you stepped forward, everyone else just took one step back, right?
Right. Well, Tom Gollier was the superintendent, and he's done it for so long, and we've been fighting for so long that I think it just becomes super stressful getting promised and then they let us down.
Yeah.
And that has happened for almost 20 years now.
So can you explain to people where is Englewood Diking District?
It is the Coal Bank Slough in Englewood in Coos Bay, Oregon.
And what exactly is the problem that you're having with the dike?
The dike it's over 160 years old. It was built to haul the coal up and down from the Libby coal, where they dig up the coal and bring it in and bring it to the railroad. So the dike was put there so that they could use mules to haul the coal back and forth to the rail trestle.
Oh, interesting. So this thing's been there a long time.
Yes. It predates any records. We have not been able to find the actual date that dike was built.
Now, what kind of a problem does that bring up? Having, because I know there's a lot of environmental rules where they want to get rid of a lot of this diking and let a lot of this stuff go back to being a swamp. Is the age of that dike part of the problem of getting it replaced?
Well, it's the age and the fact that it's a piece of it is in the city, the larger amount is in the county, and the city owns a chunk of it. So, and because it's falling apart and it has actually broken before, there's a lot of people that want to mitigate that land to claim it back as estuarine land.
Right.
So because it fell one time, the city got a FEMA grant and bought all of the wireless and all the houses down there. So they're gone. They mowed them down. They're gone. And they plugged up one of the city pump houses. Now we still have a pump house down there. So if it floods, that will put around 2,500 residents with issues for sewage. So they come in and they say, well, we're going to do something, and then they leave, and then they don't do it, or they make promises, or they start working on it, and then something else becomes more important.
And that sounds about right. But if part of it is in the city, why doesn't that dike repair become really the responsibility of the city, and the city should have to give the funding up to repair that dike?
Well, the city says that they blame it on the county, and the county says, well, it's not one of their key projects. It doesn't seem to be important until it actually breaks and people can't get their vehicles in and out, or the sewage pump house is damaged, or, it's something that they just seem to be able to push it off. And I brought it up to Mayor Benetti because he's the one that shut our project down the last time. and he doesn't seem to think it's his problem. And the county is aware of what's going on. They're aware that we're still in emergency status, that it could break. Given a good thunderstorm, it still overtopples. It will flood all the way down if there's nowhere for the rain to go when it overtops. So they should all be responsible. But they put it on, the last time when it broke, they put it on to the residents there. I was nowhere around, so this is not my fault. They put it onto the residents to form a district, saying that if they did that, they could get more help. Well, the minute they did that, they put the dike repair on the residents.
And
even though it's county property.
Now, is that so? How long has actually been a district, a taxing district itself? Because I imagine you as a homeowner, you pay into this district, don't you?
$50 per acre per year is what gets paid in, and there are about 25 residents. My pasture, Diane, Bill, and Georgianne, and then the city own the largest amounts of it, which are all the farmland down at the bottom. And our residents they put their own money in, not just what comes in from the taxes that get taxed every year. A couple of them put $30,000 into putting a tide gate in.
Yeah.
A few years ago, or well, about 10 years ago. And then every year we put thousands in on dirt, which is just adding more for it to wash away when it does finally break. It just stops from the leakage from being so bad. We had in 2017, we had a grant that was, the city promised us they were going to come in and help us. It was a fully funded grant. We were going to make a walking path for bird watchers and a boat launch for people to be able to not have to launch in the bigger areas where the bigger, larger boats would be coming in and out, which would have really been important with this new port coming in. But they decided to shut it down all of a sudden. And they were 360 hours into our tax dollars into getting this developed grant and everything else done, feasibility studies, you name it. And then all of a sudden, Benetti shut it down. So that's no longer an option.
For the tide gate, right?
What is that?
Because you're talking about the tide gate, right?
I'm talking, well, there are 3 tide gates out there. The Libby district is about where the city property on Old Wireless ends, so it's only about 600 feet of dike that belongs to Libby district. Theirs is the one that actually broke the last time and flooded Southwest Boulevard, all of the property, farmland. FEMA had to come in and raise people's homes because the sewage was washing in and out every time the tide would come in and out. It was pretty bad.
That sounds pretty bad. I wouldn't want sewage washed in and out of my yard or my house every time there was a flood, because that seems to happen in all the time here in Oregon. It rains a lot, and I've got a picture up on the screen of the last time it flooded, and anyone who's looking at this can see that it's going to cause a huge problem. And one of my questions is if this dike busts, it's going to flood again, and there's businesses over there that are going to be affected. But not only that, they are now putting the homeless, they've got Coal Bank Village where they have a whole bunch of homeless, but they're going to open up the Pro Diesel building to even more homeless. What's that going to do to those folks?
Well, used to it was Chambers Plumbing, and when it flooded over there, there was 3 feet of water inside the Chambers building. And those pallet homes actually sit lower. So whatever cost they've put into putting those buildings there, those buildings will be damaged and those people will be homeless once again.
Oh, and the city should be responsible for this because the city is the one who started up the Coal Bank Village, right?
Yes. And actually, I've been informed by other people that are in charge, like Department of State Land and the Army Corps of Engineers, talking to them that they are supposed to have permits to put permanent housing in anywhere. the property was supposed to be built up before they put those homes in there if it was followed, if the law was followed. But because they're saying it's temporary housing, they don't know how to handle it. But technically not temporary housing, if even though you're changing people in and out of it, if you plan on keeping those buildings there to reuse every time a new person needs a place, that's not temporary.
No, that's not temporary. And the fact that these people are already downtrodden, they're already at the worst part of their life ever because they're homeless. And then you put on top of this that they may be washed out of their own house, and not with clean water. We're talking about dirty, nasty sewer water, because that mixes in with the water that comes in with the flooding, correct?
Correct. And we also have a pump house that will be underwater. So that's a main, I mean, it is made for pumping water. So yeah, it's, and we've already had 1,200 gallons at one point was dumped into Coal Bank Slough during the fishing season by our city sewer. It was dirty sewer water that went into.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And yep, and they can't clean it up. There's no way to clean it up. And then we had Leon Posey's body that floated up on the 19th against the deck of my neighbors.
Now tell that story if you would, because I thought that was an interesting story as well.
So on the 15th or the 16th, from my understanding, he went into the water. He was drinking with the people under the bridge at 101 near 7-Eleven. And he slipped and went in and fell into the mud, according to people, and was unable to be found. So we were told, well, we weren't told. We overheard the people speaking while they were out there to recover his body that they did launch a boat, but they were unable to make it underneath the port's new rail bridge that we've been arguing about. And so they just didn't search for him. They just left him there like a bag of garbage, let him float, and never said a word. Not one flashlight was out on my dike looking for that poor man. Not anything. Nothing was done. We weren't even notified there was somebody out there possibly at all. And as of the 19th, my neighbor's daughter was outside on the phone and looked down, and his body was laying against their deck. And sadly, nobody even wanted to report it in the news, because they know that anything, I asked the Coast Guard, why did they not call them? If they can't launch a boat or get something out there, I would hate for it to be one of my kids.
No kidding. And the thing is that this is, you already have sewage in the water, and a body rotting in the water isn't any better. And then you got people like Benetti, the city council, the homeless response team, who will tell you how much they care about the homeless, how much they want to bring these people up to better standards and give them a little bit of dignity. But here they are letting a homeless guy just rot.
Well, they're not worth anything if they're not breathing. That's the only thing I can think. And that's really sad, because when we die, we all end up in the same place. You don't mistreat, or, as far as I'm concerned, it's some form of abuse. It's neglect to allow that to happen.
I've got a picture.
It's immoral.
It is immoral. And I've got a picture of the boat ramp, the so-called boat ramp that you had sent me. And go ahead and tell people why this boat ramp is in such disrepair, because they had to find this body by searching on the side of the banks of the Coal Bank Village, right on the banks, instead of being able to launch a boat into the water, because the boat ramp, well, it looks like basically rocks piled up.
I don't think they searched at all. I really don't think they searched at all. I think when they figured out they couldn't get that boat under, they just said, well, he'll eventually float up, because not one neighbor, nobody on the water was notified. My tide gate dumps every bit of water in and out of Little Creek down there. that comes in from the stormwater up the hill, which is how sewage ended up in my gate, because Dakota Street's septic backed up while they were working on it. Not the septic, when they were doing work on the lines, one of their things backed up and it just dumped the water, and it of course drained right down into the Little Creek. Well, they're like, well, we notified the proper people. Well, okay. But then they told me that with this Leon fellow, and now he floated, mind you, in and out with the tide for several days. They tried to tell me that he could not have gotten caught in my tide gate. Well, I'd like to explain that to the 4x4s that we found in there, and the trees too, because that could have been even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't even sound like they know what's going on in this situation when, as far as I'm concerned, these people are responsible for this. This is within the urban growth boundary. They use a lot of urban renewal money to give to private businesses to do these facades. And, this is an area where you have a more poor demographic of people than you would in other parts of the city. Do you think that has a lot to do with it, that this isn't something that, if it was downtown Coos Bay, I'm willing to bet they would take care of it, don't you?
Oh yeah, they would definitely. And the thing is where he fell in, that is the urban renewal area. But where he floated to is actually in the county. So, he floated to the end of the city property where we found him, and he'd been in the county area, I'm sure, because the way he's facing. But the thing is they should be working together to fix this problem. And I get really frustrated when I find out that I'm not upset they gave money to Salvation Army to give people a better life and get help. But when I find out they go into private chambers and they give another 60 grand to somebody to rent these homes, more of them, after they've told me that they can't even help us get a feasibility study for $20,000 because they don't have the money, then that's upsetting, because you're only going to damage the people that are already homeless once we break.
Right.
So
right.
You're not only are they, telling us they don't have the funds, but somehow they can cough it up for more homeless issues. But on top of that, when we do have damage and it gets bad enough that we overtopple or we break, they're going to damage the homes that people have donated and took the sweat off their back to help other people. And they're just going to damage all that, and it's going to be gone. So they're not getting ahead.
No, they're not. In fact, it sounds like they're going to cause more damage. Amy, hold on a second. I've got to do a quick promo for 3H Tree Service. We're in the middle of Where's 3H Tree Service? And if you folks are still out there, I just want to give you a couple of hints. They're in 3H Tree Service. They're right now, they're at a business, and they're at the south part of Coos Bay. So they're in Coos Bay in their south part. And in fact, if you're looking at this picture that I've got on the screen, they're not far from that area. So if you're looking to win that prize, wait a minute. Actually, hold on, Amy. I've got Matt on here. What's up, Matt?
Hey, we had a winner.
All right.
Already.
Wow. Was it anyone I know? You there?
Miss Garcia.
Nice.
Let's see. Jonelle Garcia was her name.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you, this is kind of weird. I was sitting here listening to my radio, and I listened to church on the radio, and this pastor was on talking about how we need to bless other people with our money if we have an abundance, and then she pulled up and she was like, man, I was praying for this, and she found us, and it's going to help her pay her bills for the month. And anyway, it's a big blessing to her, and we're grateful to be able to help.
Oh, that is so cool. Now that's a good story.
Right.
I like that.
Like I wanted to cry. Like, she's
Yeah.
super, super happy that we were able to help her out. So it was a good thing.
Well, I want to thank you for that. So everyone, just so if you're listening out there, today's round of Where's 3H Tree Service, we had a winner, and Miss Garcia, congratulations out there. Matt, let me ask you this. You're done for the day. You can actually go home and go to bed now, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been a little under the weather, and I think a nap would be really great right now.
All right. I appreciate it. And we'll plug 3H Tree Service a couple of more times. In fact, I got your logo up on the screen, and anyone can give you a call at 541-294-1800. 1-800. Yeah, actually, that's it. 1800. I'm sorry.
First time I've heard that, though.
Yeah, actually, that's weird. I was because you look at it and it's that number's usually at the beginning of the phone number.
Right.
And so, yeah, you did a good job of that. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. And
okay.
You have a wonderful day. Okay.
Next week, follow us for more. We'll do it again next week.
You got it, man. You take care.
Take care.
All right. That was so cool. I'm glad we got to give that prize to somebody who needed it. Are you listening to this, Amy?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wow. That's, Matt's been under the weather, and he was sick this past weekend. And we had been advertising this contest for probably a couple of weeks. So I was glad he was able to do it. And I was glad it went to somebody who needed it. So how much, let me ask you, if they were to redo the dike and they were to repair it, or because I don't even think they can repair it, just the pictures that I saw, how much do they say that's going to cost?
Well, we don't know, because the last studies that were done were in 2017 when we were getting ready to do all the joint application permits and stuff. And I wasn't privy to all that information yet. So we got a hold of a place called Business Organ. And they said that our study was too old. So we got a hold of an engineering firm through Rod Taylor, the commissioner. He set us up with them, and they came back with an estimate for $20,000 to do a new feasibility study, which would give us an idea of how much we needed in grant money so we could apply for them. But we have not had the funding. And then the county's aware of this now. So, and then we find out a week or two after we found that information out for the $20,000 that they were doing a $60,000 giveaway for a rental pallet home somewhere, to rent a pallet home. And they're sitting there telling me they don't have the money for it, but apparently they're coughing this money up for homeless. But like I said, they're just going to cause more problems. That thing's not fixed, and water ends up down there.
Now, yeah, this is just going to be even more expensive if this happens. It doesn't make even any sense, because I would think that they would want to get the dike fixed, because they know that if those businesses that get washed out and the damage is so bad, let's say we have a huge storm, lots of raining, there's a lot of flooding, the dike breaks, it's going to take out a lot of businesses in that industrial part of the area, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, if it's raining at the time that breaks, which is usually what causes the breakage, because it's heavy rain and you get mud and rain, and what happens. But it flooded Englewood Market the last time. A couple feet were in there. It was washing in and out with the tide coming in and out until they were able to get it stopped with the Army Corps of Engineers. And as soon as they filed, of course, like we were talking about when they formed the district, as soon as they filed that paperwork, my understanding is the sunshine came out and the Army Corps of Engineers stopped all of their equipment instantly and said, well, it's no longer an emergency, so we're out of here.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And it is. And you can actually see it in news reports on Google and different things that literally that day they pulled out because the sun was out. No more help.
When we pay a lot of money in taxes, and that is just absolutely ludicrous that they would back out. I've got up on the screen, you had sent me pictures from the world of the last flooding and some of the articles that were written. So it's not like this stuff is news to the city council or the mayor. They're just like ostriches putting their head in the sand and hoping that this dike won't break. And eventually you and I both know it's going to break. It's going to cause a huge amount of damage. And one of the things that they're doing right now at the city is they've got the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan that they're doing. How does that involve you?
Well, we are one of the major estuaries, I've been questioning and nobody will answer me as usual. When I looked at their estuary plan and information, to me, it looked like they were just trying to cut Coal Bank Slough out. But I have not been able to figure that out one way or the other because no one will tell me. And I've tried to read what those changes are, but you have to go through the way they put it. You have to go through so many Oregon revised statutes and, different things to be able to puzzle it together to figure that out. That I with, the things that have been happening in my personal life with my family, we've lost a couple of people in the last several months. I have not been able to do that. And, like I said, I've been on the phone with Mayor Benetti. I've been to the council meetings. I've asked about it. I've called Department of State Lands. I've spoken to, and Department of State Lands supposedly didn't have a clue that they'd made us non-navigable. So they could put that flat bridge in, which is, if we break, we need to be able to get a boat in there or a barge or something large enough to help us in the wintertime to put that dike back together.
Yeah. And, I'm almost to the point where maybe they don't want it put back together. Like you said, maybe they just want it to go back to an estuary where, I don't know, that you've got so many people who are so against development. It's a way to get rid of what I would think the city would consider undesirables.
Right. Well, the problem with that is my house sits level with my pasture. So if my pasture gets flooded, my home does. And Southwest Boulevard is not raised up. The old city manager actually made a comment in the one of the sessions that, he's like, well, we'll just raise the boulevard up and leave that. And I brought that up to Nicole Rutherford, the new city manager, and she goes, no, that was never said. And I said, well, you better look back on the paperwork because it was said by Roger Craddock. But they just treat us like we're the undesirable stepchildren back there, but yet they own a big chunk of that property. They bought it with that FEMA grant, and they were going to do the boat launch on that section, is what we had talked about. So that would have solved this problem for Leon Posey. They would have been able to launch a boat and search for him at night. Now, that old boat launch that they're talking about has a 5.5 foot whirlpool suction that goes underneath where the old KCBY used to be at full tide. When we're at high tide, there's a huge whirlpool there. And there actually has been an animal that got sucked through there. I could just imagine, I'd hate to say it, but, Leon Posey. Put boats in.
I just played the video of that you had sent me where it starts forming the whirlpool, and then I got the picture of the whirlpool there. That is dangerous. That's like you said, you've already had animals sucked into it. You possibly have had a human sucked into it, and what is causing that again, you said?
So when the tide gets high, the
Mhm.
water drains into what used to be farmland on the other side. And there's also whirlpools on the other side, and it gurgles and bubbles as it's pushing the water into that hole and getting backed up, or it's coming out of there because there's no actual screen or anything on it. It's just a pipe. And I've spoken to people, the proper authorities, and they have let me know that that is perfectly legal.
Well,
But I just can't see how that could be safe when if you're standing right there looking at that, and you look straight across, that fence line back there is right there where Devereaux's wanting to put their housing.
and so you got someone on drugs, someone who's mentally ill, and they decide to take a swim, not knowing that whirlpool exists. They're just going to be sucked right under.
And if they're not, a small human, they'll just back everything up, and then that roadway will be destroyed.
So they have a joint work session with Coos Bay, North Bend, and of course the county that's happening on Wednesday, January 10th at 6 p.m. I know you're out of town right now. Are you going to be able to be back for that meeting, or were you planning on attending that meeting?
I had planned on attending it, but as you know, my son's father passed away, so I won't be back in until the 14th.
Right.
His funeral is actually that day, so I'm flying back as soon as I can. I'm hoping that the people that I'm close to will be able to go, and somebody will be able to represent us with that and make a comment, because it does need to be, brought up. People, they know what it is, but last time I brought it up, like I said to Benetti, he basically cut me off and hung up on me.
And well, and that's not surprising. I've had that experience as well. They when they get onto a topic that they don't want to talk about, that seems to be their natural reply, is that they think they can just push you off to the side. I'm going to be at that work session, and if they are allowing public comments, I'm definitely going to get up and I'm going to mention this for you, because you are out of town. And like I said, if anyone's listening, anyone sees the rebroadcast of this podcast, I hope that they do go to this meeting. And I'm going to repeat it here. It's January 10th, this Wednesday at 6 p.m. in the Coos Bay City Hall. And it involves Coos Bay, North Bend, and the Coos Bay Commissioners. The Coos County Commissioners. And I hope everyone realizes that this is something that's going to destroy businesses. This is something that's potentially life-threatening. And if they don't replace this dike, then, which, like I said before, I'm not sure they even want to replace it. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I'm not real happy about it, because that cattle and my pastures have been out there for a very, very long time, and it's cattle. There are cattle out there. I have birds. My neighbors have their animals. We enjoy our pastures, and it's productive land. It's not like we're out there just letting it sit and doing nothing with it. But I know these days any government seems to be afraid of people that can self-sustain. So maybe they just want to get rid of us, because we're that thorn in their side. But what they don't realize is if that land comes and is reclaimed, it's going to end up just like the dairy land out there did at Winter Lakes. They had all sorts of problems with drainage,
Right.
Their cows' feet, cows dying. The mosquitoes are just horrible, and this isn't something that you can just reclaim. If you look at all the old records and everything, being that that's there, if you dig a couple of feet down any given place in my pasture, you're going to find old bottles, stuff like that. in 18, I want to say it was 1866, and there was another article in the early 1900s that they used that as a spoilage site to get rid of old gravel and dirt from other sites. So all that is mixed in there too. They don't want that land in that slough, I guarantee you.
Right.
But they don't look at all that, and all the old documentation and all the documentation for it says that it's very probable that it would be toxic if that land was reclaimed and put into trying to remake into an estuary.
So that gives them a perfect reason why they don't want to have anything to do with this, because it sounds like the county is given up on responsibility. It sounds like the city is given up on responsibility. But you did go to other places. You went to the governor, correct?
Oh, yes, I tried. I have sent several emails. I have talked to the people in her liaisons, for her. And all I get is, we cannot help you at this time. We have too many people trying to get a hold of her, basically. She just doesn't want anything to do with us. And I know that she personally put the people that are at the port in charge of the port over here, or in Coos Bay. And with this bridge, and nobody seems to know why we're non-navigable now. Somebody passed this rule. Somebody allowed it to go through. Nobody at the Army Corps of Engineers has stated that they knew anything about it. They were completely unaware when I called. DSL, they've been completely unaware. They had no idea. And Department of State Lands is in charge, partly in charge of having this rule changed. So nobody's making any claim to doing it. And it was illegally done because none of us were notified. And the Oregon Revised Statutes state that we're supposed to be notified. And the port should be taking responsibility, since if we break, we can't repair from the land side in really heavy mud quickly enough to save anyone's property or home. So we need to be able to get to that water side. If we have a tide gate slip, we can't get that fixed from the land side. We have to have boats. So how do we get that in there?
How do we get that in there? Right.
Yeah. So, and the port's well aware of it. They stated that they would try to help us as much as they could with grants and stuff, but we just get the brush off. It's like we needed an engineer. All I kept getting was, here's a list, call them. That's not help. No. So, and we are currently now getting to the point where we're looking at attorneys to start filing a suit, because we're sick and tired of being run over. And the last time the North Bend Airport needed to be added to, they removed a bunch of dirt from the back of our dike. And that just allowed more water to come in and out. And then that was in 2001. And by 2006, the dike broke back there.
So is the dike, just to refresh my memory, because someone was asking online who owns it, who actually owns the dike itself?
The county and the city.
The county and the city.
It's kind of like an easement, but it abuts to our property. So we're not allowed to touch or do anything on the outside of the dike, which is what needs repair. But we are allowed to, we have to have permits, but we keep continuing to add dirt, but we can't put riprap or anything like that on the outside without legal permits, which take forever. And then we have to have, contractors that are licensed for this kind of stuff. And then you've got, the estuary we have to deal with, and Department of State Lands. All this stuff should be getting managed, but because they basically tricked them into doing this district, they can't. Some people originally had planned on mitigating, but then when all of them didn't want to mitigate, they had already formed this district.
So So who would you sue? Who would you go after if you when you do hire an attorney? You're going to go after the city? You're going to go after the county, the Army Corps of Engineers? Who are you going to sue?
No. The problem is we need to find out who allowed that rule to be passed without notifying us. And as far as right now, the port of Coos Bay is the one that decided to put that rail bridge in as a flat span instead of replacing the opening bridge that was supposed to open down there. And it was high enough, even though it hadn't been replaced, to get a boat under. At least enough boat to be able to get people on the water to search for someone or to put a tide gate, repair or whatnot. Now you can't get under it at all. So it would be the port. And
Wow.
the port is the one that requested that rule be changed because it's their rail bridge.
And we're talking the port of Coos Bay.
Yes.
Yeah, people don't realize how far out the port property extends out, and especially if we're talking is this a railroad that they were using this bridge for?
Yes, it's the rail bridge that runs right next to the 101 bridge.
So they've got plenty
where the fellow went in.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he slipped in. And the problem too that we're having is if Devereaux moves more homeless there, we know that they're already starting to accumulate in that area because of the pallet homes. But if they move that, you know how Empire they kind of spread out from right there at Devereaux?
Yeah.
Well, when they move Devereaux over there, if they do that, you're going to have even more people, and we have rain. So where's the closest cover going to be?
Right.
The bridge.
Right.
And so how are we going to maintain that? How are we going to make sure that we don't end up with more people in that slough that they can't go after, help, or rescue? Well, I mean, they wouldn't even so much as look for them with flashlights walking down the side of my dike. It's not like we would have stopped them. So what are they going to do? Just let human bodies float around? I mean, because they're going to have alcohol. They're going to have drugs. We know that they are constantly overdosing over there on a daily basis at Devereaux.
No, this is a damn shame. And it's just absolutely just astonishing that the city and the county and all these government entities are letting this go on, because they spend a lot of money on a lot of useless projects. And I'll be there at this meeting on Wednesday, January 10th, to speak out for you, because I think this is just a disgrace that this is going on. And hopefully there will be others from the Diking District who will be there as well. I only got a few minutes left for you. Anything you want to tell people that are listening right now?
Well, yeah. If they can come up with $60,000 to build or to rent one small pallet home or whatever, or two or three, 20 grand would have gotten us a feasibility study to begin getting funding for this dike. And I could build 3 or 4 pallet homes for that. I would have been happy to find someone to do it for them.
Right.
Instead of renting this pallet home. I don't understand how that becomes a responsible choice. So, and maybe I'm not informed completely, but as far as I'm hearing it, I would have gone out there myself and built some pallet homes for that.
For that price. Yeah. It's just amazing how much money they're giving to that. And of course, the commissioners will tell you that the money came from Coos Health and Wellness, and those were federal funding dollars. It didn't come out of the county general fund. But the thing is if the state has that much money to give to Coos Health and Wellness, then why doesn't the state have enough money to repair this problem when the diking problem may actually cause the death of the homeless people they're trying to save? This just blows my mind how they're saying they want to save people, yet at the same time, they are going to let this natural disaster to occur.
Right. And, and on top of that, I did inform the people that were giving the money to this, what is it, the $1.8 million or whatever. I did inform them about this situation, and I never heard back from anyone except for someone there got in contact with our city manager, and she got really upset and called me and told me I was messing with their negotiation power over this pro diesel building.
Oh,
Well,
wow. Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
just ridiculous. That is.
So they know, they're all aware, this is our governor. This is who we've chosen to represent us.
Yep.
Someone that doesn't care about the people in our county and our city that have been here for how long. But now we're going to start moving more homeless people, more drugs, more alcohol, putting them in more danger and forgetting about our longtime residents.
Yeah, it's a shame. Amy, I got to go. I want to thank you very much for being on the radio, and hopefully next time we'll get this fixed up, because I know this is going to be an issue that continues, right?
Oh, I'm sure. It's been going for 20 years, and like I said, everyone else gave up. It's my turn, I guess. So,
all right.
And excuse my accent. I've been hanging around the children, and I've picked up Louisiana again.
Hey, we'll get it out of you when you get here, okay, man?
Oh, good.
All right, Amy, you take care.
You too, dear. Thank you.
All right. And I appreciate her taking the time out of her going to a funeral for a family member to actually go ahead and come on the radio. But right now, I'm going to go out to Josh from Tom and Gigs. Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Wow, you're looking good. That's a really good picture.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm, new to this whole podcast thing, and, want to see what we can do with it.
Well, it's better than the radio because you can cuss. So go ahead. Let the verbs fly. It's okay.
I'm not going to do that, but I'm kind of walking around the. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I said, I know you're a good guy. I mean, you wouldn't do that.
I would never do anything like that. So I'm walking around the showroom, Tom and Gigs. If you've never been in here, this is kind of what the shop looks like. Tom and Gigs has been in business here since 1964, in this building since 1969. We specialize in, custom exhaust and repair. That loud noise in the back is Tim. He's building some custom exhaust for a 77 Chevy. I'll walk out there in a second, but I'll give you a tour, Tom and Gigs. That's kind of what everything looks like in here. We have the hobby shop, full-on off-road shop here. We specialize in Traxxas RC cars, Axial, Low C. We got a showroom full of them. So if you've never been in here, now you can see what it looks like. But we got lots of neat stuff in here. So we're out to the shop real quick once Tim's done using the chop saw. I told him I'd be on here, but he's just working away.
Well, he's a working man. He's got to do that. And let me ask you, this is kind of cool that you can now walk around the shop and actually show people, you're walking behind you. I can see all of those little parts to those RC cars. I don't think people realize how many of those parts you actually have. I mean,
that is, yeah, sorry to cut you off there. I need to turn up my thing so I can hear you better. But hey, that's all Traxxas. Where are we at here? All Traxxas RC cars and parts. There's Mr. Joe Eddy. He's the RC guy.
Nice.
So if you have questions or need anything done like that, let's go do that. He can come help you with that. So let's walk out here. We'll talk to Tim. Hey, Tim, what are you working on?
77 four-wheel drive.
Here, hold on. There's Mr. Tim.
Hey,
folks.
Mr. Tim.
Having a blast here Monday morning on Rob's podcast. It's pretty awesome. I can't wait to do next week. We'll have to have some codes for you. But yeah, we're doing a little bit of exhaust here. Just kind of show you. And it's pretty cool stuff. Put some flow masters on it, make it sound, as we can say now, badass, right?
You can say cuss words now.
It's good, man. Well, we got an ass for president, so we might as well call it like it is. But anyway, we've got all kinds of stuff going. Josh has been selling lots of running boards and electric ones too. Those are really cool. Not so much for the older rigs, but if you're getting too old to get in your high lifted rig, it's probably time to lower her down a little bit and slow her down. But anyway, give us a call out here at the shop, and Josh can get you going. And whatever it is, a dual exhaust or just some basic fancy stuff, we can do it. Put a nice tip on your rig and go from there, man.
All right. Well, thank you,
Sounds
guys.
good.
Sounds good. You all have a good one, okay?
All right. Thanks, Rob.
See you guys
All right,
later.
you all take care. Take care, Tim. All right, and now I've got Dian Rich joining me. Dian, she is my partner in crime. We've been doing a lot of dealing with a lot of political issues over the last couple of months, and one of the big things that we were pushing for is to keep out of our oceans off the coast of Oregon are those turbines. Dian, you don't want any of those turbines, do you?
We hate the wind turbines, don't we, Rob? We say no.
Wow, you were coming in really good. Good job.
Am I too loud?
No, you're not loud. You're perfect. You're right. You're just perfect.
Perfect. No, even though David Brock Smith set up all the legislation to fast track the wind turbines, if we've got enough people to stop the investors from putting the money out, we can stop those wind turbines.
We absolutely can. And that's something we're going to talk about right now, because you were on the radio show with me on November 20th when we did an interview with David Brock Smith. And I guess he wasn't too happy about it, because he then sent an email to the owner of Bicoastal Media, Mike Wilson, complaining about me. And then Mike, after reviewing that interview, he judged the whole totality of the show by that 120-minute interview where David Brock Smith wouldn't shut his fat face, and we had to keep asking him questions about some of the answers, because the answers he were giving, well, they were just lies, wouldn't you say?
Well, the Curry con man was filibustering. Sorry, but that's who he is, and that's what he did. And
Yep.
It's too bad that he couldn't answer the fact that the question was, you took $150,000 from a Democrat from San Francisco, Mr. David Brock Smith. And even though we did not speak to you nicely, it's because you took $150,000 from a Democrat in San Francisco. He's never faced that yet, has he?
No, and you notice, and I'm going to play his commercial that he's been put out there. I don't, some people have been calling it a public service announcement. As far as I'm concerned, it's a campaign commercial.
It's a con job.
It's a con job.
Absolute con job from the Curry con man.
From the Curry con man. And we're definitely going to keep the pressure up on him, because we've got a good candidate who's running for his position, someone who's actually worked in the timber industry, who's a guy who's a blue collar man, not like David Brock Smith, who is a bartender from Port Orford, who's,
he's AOC of Oregon's coast.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what
AOC.
David Brock Smith is. He's just a con man from Curry County, and he needs to go. There is nothing good about that man. We all know his voting record, and that speaks volumes.
One of the things about his voting record, and you touched on it a minute, is House Bill 3375. 3375, that's the bill that really touched off our investigation into David Brock Smith. We had him on a Zoom meeting. During that Zoom meeting, he kept bragging about this bill that was going to stop or stall the program. And then, you had already read the bill. I went and read the bill after that meeting, and I realized he's lying to us. This bill actually facilitates the whole process. It sets up a roadmap and creates a team to work at bringing in those windmills. And he tries to say that the reason he did it was to keep it out of the hands of Governor Brown. But yet Tina Kotek, who is the current governor now, she was the House Majority Leader in, when he was in session and that bill was in process in 2021. She voted for that bill, and she supports the wind project. So why would the governor of today, who was the House leader back in 2021, vote for a bill that was going to stop or stall a project that she supported? Does that even make sense, Dian?
It makes no sense. The truth is that he wrote a bill that created a list of things that needed to be done. It identified the agencies that had to give approval and give their ideas one way or another. He created a task force. He put together the report that fast-tracked the entire project. Now it's ready for financing. Every development needs to have agency approval, and that is what that legislation did. And he can lie all day long, but we all know we don't build a building without permits, and he can't get the permits without the agencies.
Right.
So he's full of it again, Curry con man.
And of course, he's going to tell all of us that this bill was because he doesn't think we're smart enough to go and read the bill. That's the kind of con man is.
Read his
right.
4-level chess. Oh, he's just such a statesman to put
Right.
together a bill that says, hey, we're going to bring in 3 gigawatts of power from offshore wind, but somehow or another, saying that in itself, it will now slow everything down, and we'll have a controlled bill
Right.
here, right?
Right.
No, I mean, the man is such a liar. All you have to do is read the bill, and you know what he did. And if the windmills come here, David Brock Smith is the reason that they're here. His bill brought them in.
Yeah, his bill brought them in, and I think he actually, even though he says he doesn't support the project, if you read the bill, you realize he does support the project because he supported that bill. He's touting the bill.
Yeah.
And 8 of the people who were co-sponsors on that bill were Democrats who support the project. Once again, why would Democrats who support a windmill project vote on a bill that delayed or stopped the project? Well, of course they wouldn't. So So David Brock Smith is a fat bastard. He's a liar, and it's just absolutely
he's a liar. He's the
infuriating.
con man. And when it comes to misinformation, guess who has it all?
Right.
The Curry con man.
That's right. And we were talking about what was it I was going to say?
Well, it was the bill.
The bill, yeah, and how it passed, and the people who voted against it. This is the interesting thing. All the Republicans in the House voted for it. Many of them have received money from David Brock Smith, who received that money from a California Democrat, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But one of the also things that happened is that the people who voted against it were the 8 Republicans in the Senate, the most conservative Republicans, and those Republicans are now gone because they walked out of the Senate, and David Brock Smith didn't walk out. He stayed there the whole damn time.
He had an agreement because he's such a statesman.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
How many lies has that man told us?
Well,
how many senators are going to say, David, we know that you're better at speaking to others than we are. So you go ahead. We'll go out, but you go in. No.
Right.
He did not put himself on the line because he wanted to vote for the bill. He didn't vote no. He didn't vote at all.
And the sad part is that he is running for senator, and there are a lot of people out there who don't realize how devious this man is. The bills that he passed, and I'm going to go over a couple of them. He voted for House Bill 2001, which increased the homeless industrial complex. He voted for House Bill 5019, which gave over $200 to the governor. He voted for Senate Bill 762. $200 million. Yeah, $200 million. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was wandering there for a minute. But he also voted for that 762 bill, that SB 762, that Dennis Lithikim called the bill that would make you live up to Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum's credo, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And David Brock Smith voted for that bill as well.
Well, didn't he write that?
No, that wasn't the one he wrote. He wrote the one that, and I forget the number of the bill, that was created or turned the Elliott Forest into a research forest.
Absolutely. That's right.
It turned it into a research forest.
Wonderful, wonderful resource like the Elliott Forest and put it into an unmanaged state and cut 400 to 500 jobs from Douglas and Hughes County. Yeah,
and you know who's
he thinks, I'm sure.
Yeah. And you know who's in charge of the board or the committee, I'm not sure which they're calling it, is Melissa Cribbins. Our own Melissa Cribbins is now in charge of the Elliott Forest that's in Coos Bay or in Coos County and in Douglas County. They've got the governor, the attorney general, and Melissa Cribbins, all Democrats, in charge of forest land that's inside 2 of the most conservative counties in the state. Yeah, he's doing a wonderful job.
Hey, the con man.
The con man.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this commercial, and I played it for you. I sent you the commercial. You've listened to it, haven't you?
I did. And that's when I came up with the idea that the Curry con man, because he is such a con man.
So I'm going to play it in its entirely, and then we're going to go through it and review some of the things he says, because I cannot believe that this man can fit so many lies into just 3 minutes. It's just absolutely astounding. And I don't know if this is a PSA and the bicoastal media is just allowing him to play this as a PSA, because I would call bullshit on that. This sounds like a campaign commercial, if you ask me. But if not, I wonder how much money he spent for it, because it's a 3-minute commercial, and I heard it's playing several times a day. So I'm going to play it once for us right now.
Your Oregon State Senator David Brock Smith here, working for you with the utmost ethical integrity since 2017. I'd like to address something we've been seeing in many areas, from the federal level down to our Southwest Oregon communities. It's the divide and conquer strategy employed by opposing political forces. President Biden is attempting to install windmills off our coast. I wrote a bill in the state legislature during the 2021 session that required our residents and industries be heard during their federal process. It also forced a study with state agencies concerning the proposed project, requiring needed public input to occur and your voices be heard. Many of you participated, and I'm eternally grateful. Because of your participation and our collective work, we have reduced BOEM's call areas to less than 1/5 of what they originally proposed. Republicans and Democrats alike, fishermen, environmentalists, the governor, as well as many of our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C., have all joined us in saying that there are major concerns and this project should not move forward until more of your concerns are addressed. Without the bill, consultation with BOEM would have been left solely with Governor Brown, and none of this would have been possible. Unfortunately, there are some that could greatly financially benefit if they were to get me out of the way. They spread misinformation about this work along with other work I've done to grow our agricultural exports under the guise of being an insider trying to clean up the ranks. They've spun an untrue narrative, sent it out to as many people as they could get to listen, and then watch from behind the scenes as our own people fight against each other. Perhaps you heard those allegations here on this station and then wrongly heard that I was involved in getting a show canceled. As written by the president and COO of Bicoastal Media in a public letter, none of this is true. It was his decision and was never influenced by myself or anyone else. As a Republican member of your Oregon Senate and a proud conservative, my sole focus is and has always been to better the lives of our residents and the industries that support them. There is strength in our unity. We must be aware of those attempting to divide us. I'm hoping this message helps you recognize some misinformation when it happens and to always question it, to find the truth when it tries to turn us against each other. The truth has been shown here, and I'll continue to fight against forces that do not have our best interests at their forefront. United we stand, and united we will win for you, for our region, and for our state. Thank you so much for your attention. You can read more about my work for you at OregonLegislature.gov/SmithD. This is again your state senator, David Brock Smith. I am deeply humbled and honored with your faith in me and the ability to work for you and your family in the Oregon State Senate. I wish you and yours a blessed Christmas and the happiest of New Year's. May God bless each of you.
You know, that man mentioning God, I'm surprised snakes didn't jump out of his mouth. I mean,
the light has been shut, and they'll make money. Who will make money? You're the man that's bringing in the windmills from China. You're the one with the conflicts of interest. You're the one who took $150,000. Who else stands to gain? I don't know. How about his friends that he pays off with the excess money from Mr. Tuttle? Huh?
Right.
How about that? Because I don't see how anybody is going to gain from us stopping the windmills. Okay? Nobody's going to gain. And the only one who has anything to gain or lose here is David Brock Smith.
Right. And, let me play the beginning
Hello,
of this.
Oregon State Senator David Brock Smith here, working for you with the utmost ethical integrity since 2017. I'd like to address something we've been seeing in many areas from the federal level down to our Southwest Oregon communities. It's the divide and conquer strategy employed by opposing political forces.
So that's him trying to tell you and me that we are those opposing political forces that are trying to divide a party, when all we did was ask him a few questions about some questionable actions, such as writing a House Bill 3375 that actually supports the windmill project and taking money from a California Democrat, up to $150,000 from a California Democrat, who, by the way, is still registered as an active voter in California. It's even worse than that, folks. This guy, supposedly, this Thomas Tuttle, voted in the presidential primary in March 3rd in California, 2020, and he voted for the presidential primary May 19th of 2020 here in Oregon. I don't know, maybe billionaires actually get to vote twice. I don't, but maybe they do.
And, friends of David Brock Smith, they're so ethical. Everyone needs a Thomas Tuttle because, voting in 2 states on the same ballot, this is crazy. This is just nuts, Rod.
And it's not fair. It's not right that people don't know this.
They all need to know, because he wasn't elected, he was appointed. And when we did the appointment, we were told he would be vetted by the GOP. Well, guess what? This guy has multiple driving under the influence charges, drug charges, multiple following too closely, driving too fast. I wouldn't think anyone with a driving record like that would be a senator. Okay. The guy can't even drive well.
Right.
Then you look into his past and you find out he was under investigation for 2 years by the federal Justice Department.
I don't know whether it was the State Department of Justice or the Federal Department of Justice, but we will find that out. David Brock Smith, we're going to be looking at you.
He's not this innocent kid that's so ethical and wonderful. Oh, no. That's not David Brock Smith, because an ethical Republican does not be influenced by a San Francisco Democrat. He doesn't get influence money and spread it amongst our legislators. This is not okay, guys. This is influence peddling, and it's wrong.
And I want you to tell people what Rod Schilling did. He sent out an email saying he was going to go to our advertisers, and apparently he did contact your advertisers?
Absolutely, he did. Now, Rod Schilling is the chair of the GOP here in Coos County.
Right.
And he likes to tell lies. He's just as good as David Brock Smith. Okay, let's talk about this really in depth, because you and I attended the Senator Anderson.
Yes.
Senator Anderson's meet and greet.
Dick Anderson.
We asked him, Dick Anderson, excuse me.
We call him Limp Dick Anderson.
And I taped your questions.
Yes.
And my questions were not taped, but at no time was I in any way rude to him at all. Right. He asked what our concerns were, and I specifically said the Elliott Forest, the HCP, and the wind turbines. And I asked his position, which of course he never gave us. Okay. But my tone of voice was 100% pleasant. It wasn't controversial. And I didn't want to argue with him. I wanted to know where he stood on those 3 issues. And Rod decided that somehow I had been offensive. Now, I had waited after the meeting to talk to him because he said he wanted to speak with me before the meeting even started. So I waited after the meeting, and, Rob, you waited with me.
Right.
And he stood there and wouldn't approach. He wouldn't approach. Well, I do have a lot of friends, and so I did have people around me But if he wanted to speak to me, he could have walked right up and said, Diane, this, that, or the other thing. But instead, he's a coward, an absolute coward. He made up a tale that I had done this thing at the meeting, which I did not do. I have witnesses who attended the meeting and said, your tone was wonderful. I thought you asked very good questions. Anyway, when it was all said and done, he sent emails out to my advertisers. Now, my newsletter is just a small little newsletter. Right. It's just celebrated 1 year. Okay. It's not something that I did for money. I did it so that when we needed to have some information put out on the street to people about the HCP or the forest problems that we were having, we'd have something that we could send out. But Rod Schilling did that in. Yeah. I admit that the show that we did with David Brock-Smith, I did not do a good show. But the fact of the matter is that he's a senator. He was controversial and confrontational to me from the very beginning.
Yes.
And
he was insulting. He insulted
we were
you.
Asking him, he's never answered.
Nope.
Why did you take the money from a Democrat? He said he was a non-affiliated voter. He lied.
Right.
That didn't happen. On Coffee with Jen, he said, I took $125,000. Well, the truth is, between the gentleman and his wife, he took $150,000. Every time he gets a chance to lie, he does. He is the con man from Curry County. And now he's hurt me because, you see, I'm a single mom. And that little newsletter was my income. And it supported another little printing company here in town. Right. And it was distributed to a lot of little eateries here in town and restaurants where people like to read it. And they couldn't wait to have it come out. And now it's gone because of a very unethical man named Rod Schilling, who broke the Republican plank. And let me read that to you because it's pretty interesting. Please Government do. Integrity, and this was just voted on just recently. The people of Oregon and their elected representatives shall be fully empowered to examine, investigate, act to expose, and end public corruption, secrecy, and abuse of public trust without the fear of retribution. This is the Republican plank. Right. And the Republican chair went after a Republican publication because I questioned David Brock-Smith about getting $150,000 from a Democrat in San Francisco.
Right, is one that he should have, and he should have known this because he should have vetted David Brock-Smith. And what really makes me mad, Diane, is he went after you. You're a Republican, so that's bad enough. And going after our advertisers, though, trying to destroy, because my show was already taken off the radio by the time he sent out that email. In fact, the email came out on December 1st, and my contract was canceled on December 1st with Bicoastal Media. One of the things that just blew my mind away is that Republicans have been complaining since 2020 that they have been suffering cancel culture, that Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the leftists, if they have been going after the Republicans, not allowing them to get their message out, not allowing them to express their opinions. And here we have a Coos County Republican chair, Rod Schilling, practicing BLM and Antifa tactics and trying to cancel a small newsletter and a small radio show in a very rural area where all we were doing was asking questions of the candidate, of the man who's supposed to be representing both of us. That's and right. At the behest or on the behalf of David Brock-Smith, Rod Schilling decided to practice Antifa tactics. I mean, what more of a low-life thing to do?
Well, he's going to hear from my attorney.
Let me play this next section.
President Biden is attempting to install windmills off our coast. I wrote a bill in the state legislature during the 2021 session that required our residents and industries be heard during their federal process. It also forced a study with state agencies concerning the proposed project, requiring needed public input to occur and your voices be heard. Many of you participated, and I'm eternally grateful. Because of your participation and our collective work, We have reduced BOEM's call areas to less than 1/5 of what they originally proposed. Republicans and Democrats alike, fishermen, environmentalists, the governor, as well as many of our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C., have all joined us in saying that there are major concerns and this project should not move forward until more of your concerns are addressed. Without the bill, consultation with BOEM would have been left solely with Governor Brown, and none of this would have been possible.
That's a bunch of BS. We
And
would have
none
had
of
meetings
this
from
would have
BOEM.
been possible. None
Right.
of this would have been possible. Has the project been stalled and I don't know it?
Not one iota. In fact, they increased the public comment period. They did increase it at the behest of the governor. BOEM increased it for 30 days, but they fit it within the same timeline that started this process and has not changed any. That bill has not done a damn thing to stop or stall this process. And when he talks about the governor and all these political players, he's talking about Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden. They have great concerns. Yeah, they have great concerns because this is their political career. If they find that people find out what their project really does for them. And so they have great concerns. They're concerned about their political career. But the fact is Merkley, Wyden, Governor Kotek, and those 6 agencies that are now involved thanks to this bill all support the windmill project. They all support it, Diane, and it's going to be brought in here, and it's going to be to the thanks of David Brock Smith.
It was just a way to get the permits because you have to have permits to get financing. That's the missing link there. That's what he provided with his legislation, and that's what he did. Anyone who understands development understands you have to have the agency's approval, and that legislation made that possible so that they could get together and put in a report, which is basically a brochure to bring wind energy to our coast. And when he says none of this would have been possible, you know who stopped this? You and I.
Right.
Because we went to the meetings and we took the signs with us and we met the people and we found that they felt the same way we do. We don't want the wind turbines. We want our fleets. We want our fishermen. We want our coast to be the way it is. We do not want wind energy. It's too expensive.
So that people know, there were 3 meetings that BOEM held, one in, I believe it was Brookings, one in Gold Beach, and one here not here, but in Coos Bay. And it was at the Coos Bay Library, and we had protests at all 3 of those meetings. And by the way, David Brock Smith didn't show up to any of those 3 meetings. No. I don't know where he was. I know he's mad that you and I didn't attend his listening session, but if I had to listen to David Brock Smith any more than his commercial here, I just barf because the man snakes come out of his mouth. Every time he opens his mouth, snakes just jump out. But he also makes this claim.
Talking about snakes, he said, so that your concerns could be heard. We had listening sessions by BOEM. Yeah. What happened at these sessions?
No, I wasn't heard.
There was no listening session whatsoever. There was no transparency whatsoever. So him claiming that they listened to us and that was put together because of him and that report. They didn't listen to anybody. Nobody was heard.
Those 3 meetings that we went to that BOEM put on, and by the way, Melissa Cribbins showed up for all 3 meetings. Melissa Cribbins, who supports the project, I think she works for BOEM. I'm not exactly sure about that, but she seems to be very well in touch with BOEM. She supports this project. And this was a dog and pony show. They had people come into the meeting and then they broke them up into different tables. They asked you to make a comment, but those comments weren't going to be put on the official record that BOEM puts forward as comments from the public. That only came forward if you made a comment on their website and their webpage. And so that was also a bunch of BS that David Brock Smith was saying. They don't care. They're not going to listen to us because they're the federal government. They're going to do what they want. But he also
they don't
claims
want us to listen to each other either.
Right.
And worry about, because somebody may have a concern and all of a sudden something that someone should know about would come out in the meeting and then they'd look even worse than they did.
Right.
The meetings were terrible. Absolutely terrible.
They were horrible. So now he makes a claim during that clip that 1/5 of the windmill, the size of the windmills. It was taken down to 1/5 of the size, and he's taking credit for that because, you know, his genius bill. Now, I know I heard what Bone said, and they didn't say anything about David Brock Smith's bill being the reason for them shrinking that area. Why don't you go ahead and tell them what you heard?
Well, I tell you what, there were reasons that they broke it down, basically because the wind was too strong. You know, if you look at Florence, wind turbines can only operate in a sweet spot, less than 55 miles an hour. So if you have gusts of 55 miles an hour, you have to turn them off. Okay, so basically in Florence, that's every afternoon. You'd have to turn everything off. So of course I know that David Brock Smith literally reduced everything because he was so important. But no, it was based on the wind. You know, the too much wind here, too much wind there. And,
you know what I find amazing about David Brock Smith? He can't stop the child mutilation bill, the child abortion bill from passing in his own Senate, but yet he's able to change federal regulation. Isn't that amazing?
He is amazing. He is amazing. He legislates this and he did that and I did this. If you ever listen to him speak, I think you can count the word I at least 100 times.
It's his favorite letter in the alphabet.
Microphone.
Yeah, I. Yeah, I. It just blows me away.
I.
Let me play clip number 3 because it gets worse.
Unfortunately, there are some that could greatly financially benefit if they were to get me out of the way. They spread misinformation about this work along with other work I've done to grow our agricultural exports under the guise of being an insider trying to clean up the ranks. They've spun an untrue narrative, sent it out to as many people as they could get to listen, and then watch from behind the scenes as our own people fight against each other. Perhaps you heard those allegations here on this station, and then wrongly heard that I was involved in getting a show canceled. As written by the president and COO of Bicoastal Media in a public letter, none of this is true. It was his decision and was never influenced by myself or anyone else.
Yeah, right. So I guess you're the insider who's trying to clean up the party, meaning you're trying to get rid of politicians like David Brock Smith who are taking money from California Democrats and who are working with the Democrats in the House when he was in the House, and he'll be working with them in the Senate just as well. And I guess
on the China Council and
yeah, you know,
major supporter is highly involved with that. That's not a conflict of interest, is it? No, there couldn't be anything going on there or anything wrong. Yeah.
No, I listened to that and I was just absolutely blown away that he was making the claim that he had nothing to do with me getting kicked off the radio. Let me give you some facts, David Brock Smith. You keep saying that you're a powerful senator, but yet when you send an email, and by the way, me, Mike Wilson, the owner of Bicoastal, and David Brock Smith agree that he sent an email complaining about my radio show. What do you think his intentions were? Do you think he was trying to enlighten the owner of Bicoastal Media, or do you think he was actually trying to pull the radio show off of Bicoastal Media? Of course he was trying to pull the radio show off. And you know how you and I know this, Diane? He called a mutual friend of ours, and he told her the next day after that interview that you and I he was going to seek retribution against Dian Rich and Rob Taylor, and Rob was going to lose his radio show and you were going to lose your newsletter. And that's exactly what this person told us. But not only did he threaten you and me, he threatened this mutual friend of ours and told her he was going to ruin any chance of her having a political career when she had nothing to do with the interview. This blows my mind. What a maniacal tyrant.
Maniacal tyrant. Standing up and saying, I took money from a Democrat. I did. I've done it for a long time. And yeah, I think I'm highly influenced. That's why my voting is at 67% conservative. Obviously, right. I am definitely being influenced by this Democrat. Instead of standing up and telling the truth, all of a sudden we're the bad people because we found out, we read the Secretary of State's information I think everybody should.
You know, and
we're
they keep-
intelligent people.
That's what it keeps saying, that we're spreading misinformation. But all the information that I've received came from the Secretary of State's office and their financing, where they show who gives to who and which political PAC receives money from which contributor. That's what we showed. Then we showed the voting record, which is public record from the Oregon legislature. You can go to their website. You can pull down all of the votes by the senators, by the House of Representatives, and you can find out what they voted on. This is the same man who voted on putting tampons in the boys' bathroom and then lied about it.
And then lied. Yes.
Yeah.
I was there. I was actually there when he lied about it. And then when Kevin Sterick said, no, there was never an amendment. It was read twice and he voted for it twice. And it was just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Because that to me is the most disgusting bill. And, it's typical of what he does.
Then he tries to excuse
no
it,
one
saying,
from rural Oregon would think, you know what I've got to do today? Most important thing I can think of to do is put tampons in the boys' bathroom.
Right, because that's what's
what I
important.
want to do today. It's got to happen.
He was trying to help all those poor young girls. He was confused and he didn't understand the wording, even though he was sitting in committee and heard the wording. He's either incompetent or he's corrupt. I'm not sure how, he is stupid and he is, corrupt. So I don't know which to go with on that one. But, it just kills me that he continued to lie about that. And then he says he introduced another bill to correct that bill, but that bill didn't even correct the bill, because I read that bill just recently that he introduced to correct the tampons in the boys' bathroom bill. And it really didn't take the tampons out of the boys' bathroom. All it did was give the individual schools, the superintendent of those schools, the ability to choose whether they want to put tampons in the boys' bathroom or not. So he's even lying about the fix-it bill.
Right. He has a really hard time telling the truth. It doesn't matter. I mean, the little things he'll lie about. That's just how he is. Just watch him on a show. It's fun to see how he thinks he's ethical. At what point are you ethical? There's nothing ethical about what you're doing, David. There's
taking money from a California Democrat. Yeah. How ethical is that? And then he brags that he's taking that money and he's buying influence by giving that money to other politicians like Court Boyce, his buddy there. Yeah. He's given all that money to Court Boyce. I think it's been over $10,000 in the last 2 or 3 years that he's given to Court Boyce. And you have to ask yourself, if he's getting that money from a Democrat from California and he uses the excuse he's trying to bring in more Republicans into the Senate and into the House, what kind of Republicans is he trying to recruit? Republicans like David Brock Smith?
By definition, if you're trying to bring more Republicans in, then you would be giving that money to someone who is not currently in office. Yeah. But David doesn't understand that concept, does he? Because realistically, what you're doing is you're buying influence. When you give money to somebody who's already in office, you are buying influence.
The same people who supported his windmill bill.
Yeah.
And it's influence peddling. And, you and I went to a commissioners meeting, and David Jennings, who's one of the leaders of the local Democrat Party, he came over to us and he said, this, and this was the same Coos County Commissioners meeting that David Brock Smith was speaking at. And before the meeting, David Jennings came over and said, David Brock Smith is really well liked by the Democrats in Salem. He is one of their favorite Republicans that they like working with. This is David Jennings telling us that. And you and I are looking at each other going, yeah, we know.
We can tell. Yeah. We figured that one out all by ourselves.
Yeah. But it's nice to have a Democrat, the top Democrat in Coos County, actually validate everything that we've been saying. It just blows my mind that the Democrat is being more honest than the supposedly Republican conservative David Brock Smith. It just incredible, huh?
Right. I can't find anything conservative about the man.
No. And once again, if you think that we're just picking on him, go look up David Brock Smith at CPAC, and he gets a 66%. That's a D. That's a D rating. I don't want a D rated senator representing me. I'm going to play this last clip for you.
As a Republican member of your Oregon Senate and a proud conservative, my sole focus is and has always been to better the lives of our residents and the industries that support them. There is strength in our unity. We must be aware of those attempting to divide us. I'm hoping this message helps you recognize some misinformation when it happens and to always question it, to find the truth when it tries to turn us against each other. The truth has been shown here, and I'll continue to fight against forces that do not have our best interests at their forefront. United we stand, and united we will win for you, for our region, and for our state. Thank you so much for your attention. You can read more about my work for you at OregonLegislature.gov/SmithD. This is again your state senator, David Brock Smith. I am deeply humbled and honored with your faith in me and the ability to work for you and your family in the Oregon State Senate. I wish you and yours a blessed Christmas and the happiest of New Year's. May God bless each of you.
Yeah.
There he is, China.
There he is.
China
With-
David. China David.
China Dave with his overlord communist master here. Yes, I wonder how much he got from the Chinese. I just wonder. I mean, you know, he calls them gifts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess he really thinks that he's pulling the party together, and that that this division that he has caused, especially in his district, all three county parties, Curry, Coos, Douglas, all of those Republican parties are now divided, not because of you and me, Diane. They're divided because of the fact that David Brock Smith has been found out, and we're questioning him, and the party establishment doesn't want us to mess with their golden boy because he follows whatever they say blindly. And we're now stepping up with a challenger. We've got a challenger, in a gentleman who's now running against David Brock Smith. His name is Todd Vaughn. And I know he's got other challengers. I believe Ashley Hicks, who's a great person, she's running against him as well. But I know you and I are working to get David Vaughn into that office.
No,
and
Todd Vaughn.
Todd Vaughn. I'm sorry. Wow, what a Freudian slip that was. Todd Vaughn,
It
because
happens.
we had enough Davids in our time.
We've had enough.
Enough of David. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get David Brock Smith out of office. We'll be able to get Todd Vaughn in, and he'll not be able to be controlled by the establishment. And that's what
Or the Chinese.
And that's what's tearing apart
Or the Democrats.
the Republican Party. Yeah.
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 It would be really nice to actually have David Brock Smith admit there isn't any misinformation here whatsoever.
None whatsoever. And he said that he showed the proof in his commercial. This proof has been shown. He didn't show nothing. He didn't deliver any proof.
What proof?
And he certainly didn't.
Is in the Secretary of State's filings. Right. He got $150,000. The clerk in San Francisco has confirmed that the man is a Democrat.
Right.
The clerk in Curry County has confirmed that he's an independent, and that he voted in both areas in the same election.
They criticized me for not being a Republican. They didn't want the Douglas County precinct captains to listen to me because I'm not a Republican. Yet those same people in the Republican establishment, they didn't have a problem with a California Democrat giving money to their golden boy. Wow.
Isn't that interesting? That's exactly what I look at here. Here we are. We found out about it. It's not as if Rob and I stay up late at night and say, let's take on a senator.
Yeah, let's just make up stuff. We'll just make up stuff.
The point of the matter is that when you find out that somebody's dirty, that they've done something that is very unethical, such as taking $150,000 from a Democrat when you're a Republican senator, and the Democrat just happens to be from San Francisco and has connections with China, and you're on the China Council.
Right.
You kind of look at that and you say, we can do better, right? We can do better. This is not the direction that rural Oregon needs to go. And everything that this man has done that I look at from the beginning, I mean, when he was a county commissioner, Rob, didn't they do a recall on him to try to get him out?
I believe they tried to do a recall on him, and I don't know why. We need to find out why, because I'd love to talk to the people who tried to recall him, because they're going to be our friends.
Right.
They're going to be our friends because they know what we're saying about him is absolutely true. And this is and going back to what you were saying, you and I, we didn't plan to find out this information. We just followed where the facts were leading us, and we were asking questions on this. And here's the funny thing, Diane. If David Brock Smith would never have sent an email to Mike Wilson, we were getting ready to pivot and look into Melissa Cribben's record. But now, because David is, so wisely decided to make two enemies of two people who are, more than happy to make some trouble for him. If he's willing to make enemies of us, then I'm willing to oblige him in a fight for his Senate seat. I'm more than happy to back people who have much more integrity than he has. Of course, my dog has more integrity than David Brock Smith,
Right.
a lot more, and it smells better too. But David Brock Smith, if he would have just kept his mouth shut and not complained about you and me, we wouldn't be doing this. We would be going after someone else. We'd be going after the Democrats, trying to show what they're doing in office, because they're doing a lot of shenanigans as well. After we found out all that LaMota money
Good work to do, but you know what? We've got to keep David Brock Smith at the top here now.
Yep.
He's chosen the seat when he went after our friends.
Yeah, and that's what
as
really
a senator, you go after and harass people and threaten them. You have no evidence that Danessa was a part of this. And I'm going to say her name because that's the way everyone knows. I mean, it's not unknown, but the fact of the matter is that she wasn't involved. He made an enemy of someone who's pretty much the biggest one on the playground. If you want to make an enemy, pick a big enemy. Go ahead.
Yeah,
it's fine. But
that
the
was
truth
completely
is,
stupid.
Rob Taylor and I are pretty smart, and we have the assistance of Marty. This is the story that we said on the air. We told the truth. We found out about it at the meeting. We looked into it, and we found things. And Rob tried to talk to you, David Brock Smith. I know you're watching. He tried to talk to you. We're Republican. We're conservative. We didn't really want to bring this forward. It wasn't our goal. It was a very difficult decision.
Right.
And, it's cost us a lot. And if you think David Brock Smith will not lose something, you're wrong.
Right. And we're going to try to take that Senate seat away from him because he doesn't deserve it.
He does not.
And, Diane, I've talked to so many people who've listened to that crappy commercial that he's put out there. And all of them that I've talked to have said he sounds desperate. Have you ever heard of anyone go after two people that he's not even running against? That's what blows my mind. He's going to have to spend a lot of money in his campaign to fight off a bunch of actual adversaries who are running for his seat, and yet he's focusing on you and me. What an idiot.
Yes. And the fact of the matter is the people still want him to answer the question.
Yeah.
Why did you take $150K from a Democrat from San Francisco?
Why are you lying about your voting
information
record?
Everybody wants. This isn't misinformation. That's information. And the people want to know why. And he's never answered that because he's so busy trying to destroy our lives and influence our friends negatively that he's forgotten the fact. The matter is the one who needs to answer questions here is David Brock Smith.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think we're pretty much done. I think we've said all we could say. I played the commercial. I think people understand what we're talking about, and I think if people watch this, they can go to my YouTube channel. I've got the PowerPoint that we put forward with all the information in it. We've sent that around to as many people as we can. We've been to meetings to talk about that PowerPoint, make our presentation. And once again, everything we're saying, we can validate with documents from the government. These are documents from the government. So if you don't believe us, that's perfectly fine. But don't tell me that something says something if you haven't read it. If you haven't read the bill, don't tell me it doesn't say what you think it says. If you haven't seen the voting record of David Brock Smith, then you have nothing to argue about. You have no argument to make. And that's why there's a lot of people out there who are defending him, but yet they're afraid to actually look into the original records. So I want to thank you for joining me, Diane. Anything you want to say before we get you out of here?
Well, I just want to say I'm glad that you got the podcast together. It's a lot easier on the radio, though, because it's hard not to read.
Right.
But I'm glad that you're here, and I'm sure that this will spread like wildfire. And I really enjoy working with you. So thanks, Rob.
No problem. You take care, okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye-bye. And that was, of course, Dian Rich, my partner in crime. We've really done a lot of damage to David Brock Smith's record, and David deserves it. David, I know you're probably watching this. I know you'll probably watch it later. Screw you, you rat bastard. We're coming after your Senate seat. We're going to do everything we can to take you down, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. You think you can threaten us? You think you can go after our radio shows and our newsletters? We'll just make new ones. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to stop. We're not going to let some fat punk who is a fat kid who's round in the middle. You have soft hands. We're not going to let you take away anything from us. It's just not going to happen. So, I hope you enjoy the podcast there, Dave, because like I said, I know you're watching. And on the lighter side, I want to thank the woman who played Where's 3H Tree Service? I am glad that we were able to give it to someone who needed the money and who could use it. And we're going to play this again next week. Join us 3:00 on Monday. We're going to do it again, and it's going to be it's going to be a real good time. We're going to be doing a lot with that. I want to thank 3H Tree Service. If you need to get your trees removed, call 3H Tree Service at 541-294-1800. They're a sponsor of mine. Yeah, that's right. People are still happy to sponsor me because they understand the truth. They know what's going on, and they're going to stand behind us. There's nothing you can do about that. We're a strong community, strong people here. We are strong people, and we're not going to be attacked by anyone. And that's why I thank 3H Tree Service for sticking with me. I appreciate it, and they've always been very helpful. Tom and Gigs, I want to thank Tim from Tom and Gigs for coming on the show. Once again, another wonderful sponsors of mine. And of course, Oregon Firearms Federation. Yeah, I haven't mentioned them yet, but Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no compromise gun association in Oregon. I mean, if you want to give money to any group, go to Oregon Firearms Federation. Just look them up, Google them. They'll give you the website. You go to Oregon Firearms Federation, and if you got money to give, because they're the ones who are fighting for your Second Amendment rights. There's no one out there who's doing that. And I think it's the best thing you can do if you got money that you can spare, because they're fighting against Measure 114. They have held the ground. Their attorney has held the ground with those court cases. The attorneys for Gun Owners of America has done just as well themselves to hold their ground, and they're not going to back off. They're not going to back off from this. They're going to keep fighting it. I don't care if they have to take it to the Supreme Court. Kevin Starrett, the director of Oregon Firearms Federation, he's going to do it. And Kevin, he's been in the same shoes that I've been. The Republicans have been trying to cancel Kevin Starrett for a long time. After they took all this money from him, they've been trying to cancel him. But he's not going to go anywhere. That's just the way that Kevin Sterrett rolls. He's a Yankee. He's a New Yorker. He isn't going to put up with this. He's not going to put up with their crap. And I'll tell you what, in the end, it's going to be Kevin Sterrett still standing. I don't think the Republicans understand that. And once again, I'm not picking on anyone who doesn't deserve it. If you're a Republican, then act like a Republican. Don't act like the Democrats. We got plenty of Democrats. Also, I want to remind everyone, if you are watching me on YouTube, I can guarantee you at some point YouTube is going to kick me off of their platform. You need to go to Rumble, get an account on Rumble, and like me, subscribe to me on Rumble. But go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to YouTube as well, because for the interim, before I actually get kicked off of YouTube, I think it would be kind of nice to have those likes and shares and subscriptions all adding up. It'll be a wonderful thing. And I think I'm going to be heading out of here. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. This has just been a wonderful show. I appreciate Amy Manuel coming on. And if you want to read more about that, go to my website, robtaylorreport.com, and you can check out a lot of the information that you heard on the radio show. And you can sign up for my newsletter. I always try to keep you informed as much as I can. And this is all new for me. I've never done a podcast before. You come from the radio, which is much nicer because you can hide behind the radio. You can't hide behind the camera here. It's right up in your face. And so we're going to keep this up. We're going to have more guests. We're going to have more guests next week. So join me 3:00 Monday. Let's see. Well, that will be January 15th. Yeah, let me check my calendar here. I think it is January 15th. Yes. And so I hope to see you all then. It should be a good time. And so until then, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.